Babson besties! Over a year ago in a Versus, we made some fabric dolls. They were posable and had a lot of yarn hair. I kind of want to make a new one that's a little more simple. This pattern has quite a few pieces and maybe we can reduce that a little. So I sketched out a new design where the front will be all one piece. Not sure how this is going to work out, but yeah, let's see. The pattern shows 1/2 of the body. Now this line here, this is what you'll place on the fold to cut the front. Then this little tab here, well, we're gonna need to use that for the back because we'll have to cut out 2 pieces. So in all, we'll be only cutting 3 pieces of fabric in order to make this doll. I also drew a pattern for a male doll. This pattern barely fits on the paper, but I'll put a little scale on the side. So hopefully that'll help you to get the right size. And now we're gonna just cut it out. Cut it out with that tab on. And in order to get the front piece, we're gonna just fold the tab back. Then we can place this edge on the fold and cut it out. For the back, just flip it forward and cut out too, making sure they are opposite sides. You know what? Before I go through all the instructions on how to make this, I'm gonna stop and test my pattern since I just drew it. Okay, not bad. This is kind of what I was going for, a very minimal type of look, but it was a little difficult stuffing the legs. So I think we're gonna just add to the pattern, make the legs a little wider, just so it's a little easier to flip and fill. Let's try again. Fold back the tab, take a cotton fabric and fold it over. Place the pattern on the fold. I'm using a pencil to trace around it so we can remove the pattern. Push the tab up, then let's lay it the other direction and trace around it. And now we can see how much fabric we need for this project. Looks like 6.5 inches folded, so that's 13 inches wide when it's laid out. And we're gonna need 13.5 this way. So to make this doll, we need a piece of fabric that is 13.5 inches long and 13 inches wide. When we fold it, it will be 13.5 long and 6.5 wide. I use pins to hold the 2 layers of fabric together, cut it out, and we should end up with 3 pieces. 1 for the front and 2 for the back. Let's take the 2 back pieces, lay them good side to good side, take the pattern, fold back the tab, line it up with the fabric, sketch about 1 inch at the bottom and about 1 inch at the top. Remove the pattern, use pins to hold it in place. So just on the lines drawn, using a sewing machine or a needle and thread. Remove the pins, then open it up and press the seams. I use my iron to get a nice crease. You want to make sure it meets in the center because we're going to sew along those lines later when we close it up. Now we're going to take them and lay them good side to good side, matching up all the edges, pin them together. Take your time pinning. This is really going to help when we start sewing. Using a straight stitch, I sew all the way around. I'm doing 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, sewing very slowly, trying to keep the curves as smooth as possible. I've sewn all the way around, leaving no opening because we have an opening right here. Make small cuts along the curves to release tension, then flip it inside out. Having really long tweezers helps me. Because some of the limbs are kind of thin, it does take a little bit of time to flip it. Now let's make a wire skeleton. I'm using aluminum floral wire from the Dollar Tree. However, I have seen it at the craft store. I believe this is a 12 gauge wire. I cut 2 pieces that go from the head to the bottom of the foot. I want it to go just a little past because we need some to curl. Cut another piece that goes from one arm all the way to the other. When I measured it, it was about 10 3/4 inches for the arms and 12.5 for each leg. Take the two longest pieces, the ones we're using for like the head to the legs, and let's begin twisting them. Place it on the body, and when we get to the shoulders, add the wire for the arms in the center, and then keep twisting until you get to the legs. The wire can be sharp, so be careful. And I twisted the arm piece around the wire going in the center, just so it stays in place. Let's take yarn and begin wrapping it around the wire frame. Wrapping it all the way to the ends of the wire. Place it onto the body to see where we need to bend the wire and curl it back. I'm gonna bend it right there. Then continue wrapping it with the yarn, and we're gonna go back up the leg or the arm, whatever you're working on. Once everything has been wrapped and all the ends are curled and covered, flip the fabric over so we have the opening. Place a little bit of fluff at the bottom of the feet, because that might be difficult to stuff later, and a little in the hands. Tweezers are awesome. Then place the wire into the body, making sure it goes all the way to the ends. I have to bend it to get it to go inside. Then we can just straighten it back out. Now we can continue adding fluff to all of the limbs. Take care when stuffing that you don't overstuff, because with that 1/8 seam allowance, it is possible to split the seams. Now we're gonna flip it over and sew up the back using a needle and thread, and the body is pretty much done. So this is my first test run, and this is the second. The hips are definitely wider on the second one, which made it a little easier to fill. I'll keep both options available on the pattern. You can either cut on this line or on that one, depending on your preference. For the head, you can choose the inside line or the outside line. This one was a lot rounder at the top, but then I accidentally split it and I had to stitch it, so it's not as neat as I would like. I'm not gonna paint a face onto these dolls. I kind of like the mannequin look. However, you can totally do that. It's up to you. But I am going to add some hair. So we're just gonna sew on some yarn, then make some yarn pom-poms to match. And you can always use store-bought pom-poms instead. Sew the pom-pom on to give the doll a little hairstyle. And I'm sewing on some jump rings so she can rock some hoops. Let's try on some Barbie clothes to see if they fit. And yeah, she can fit Barbie clothes. And I think the fit is a little better than our first fabric dolls. I got this Barbie fashion pack from Walmart. It has another mask in it and a little tie-dye bag. And our doll can wear the shoes. Well, kind of. We can't really see the toe at the bottom, so we might have to use some sneakers or boots. Boots work too. Wait, can we balance her to stand? Oh my goodness! Her legs might be a little lumpy. I might have to work on those. But overall, not bad. The male doll required a little more fabric. I would say 13.5 by 16, so it would be 8 when folded. Construction is exactly the same. And since our seam allowance is so thin, we only made cuts to release the tension in the deep curves, like under the arms, around the hands and feet, and at the neck, and at the seat. Do take care when wrapping those skeletons. The wire can be sharp. I like to add a little touch of hot glue to cover the end of the wire, just so I don't get poked. And let's bend it and keep wrapping. I have not tested the guy pattern yet. This is my first time, so hopefully he doesn't look crazy. Adding the wire skeleton now. Begin stuffing them. And don't forget that we add a little bit of fluff to the bottom of the limbs before we put the skeleton in. Otherwise, it gets a little difficult to get into some of those spaces. The head was a little wrinkly, so I'm having to make a few cuts going around. Continue to fill it, but don't overstuff. Sew up the back, staying on the creases that we ironed. I don't know, proportions might be off a little. Probably should have made his neck a tiny bit thinner, but let's see how he looks dressed. Here are some Ken original shorts. So far, so good. Throw on a shirt. The neck doesn't look too bad. Let's add some shoes. He does have some saggy ankles there because I was just so concerned about splitting the seams. I was like, don't overstuff. But yeah, probably need a little bit more stuffing there. But there he is, and he can stand. Put on some jeans and you don't even notice the saggy ankles. He has some shoulders, but you can totally modify the pattern if you want to take those down a notch. As I am making more dolls, I find it a little easier to stuff the legs before putting in the rest of the skeleton, since we've been having an issue with, saggy ankles and all. Well, it was easier to get the fluff in the right spots, but I don't know if it was smoother. We can play around and try out different hairstyles. We can comb out the yarn for different hair textures, and you can even use a flat iron to straighten it. And the fact that they can fit Barbie clothes and stand on their own in the right shoes, mainly boots, is pretty awesome, in my opinion. Since these dolls have a full wire skeleton, they can bend all kinds of ways. Look at that! The leg can go forward, the leg can go back, we can bend it, you can make their foot touch their head, you can make a doll pretzel. Pretty much pose them however you want. I will make our pattern available for free on our blog, myfroggystuff.blogspot.com. Thank you for joining us while we made new fabric dolls that are posable and can fit some fashion doll clothes. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring the bell and follow us on Instagram at MyFroggyStuff, the Frog Vlog, and Bella of MyFroggyStuff. And we will see you next time. Bye!